The breaking point. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the crystal corridors of the Galactic Trade Alliance headquarters, her black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the rainbow-colored walls around her. The building floated in space above the neutral world of Nexus Prime, and through the transparent walls, she could see hundreds of alien ships moving like glowing insects against the star field. Today would be different from all the other diplomatic meetings she had attended over the past 15 years. Today, Earth would shock the galaxy in ways no one could imagine. Sarah's footsteps echoed softly as she approached the Grand Assembly Hall. Behind her walked a small team of human representatives, each carrying sealed briefcases containing evidence that would change everything. Dr. James Wright, Earth's chief technology advisor, nervously adjusted his glasses. His usually calm demeanor showed cracks of tension. Captain Michael Torres walked with military precision, his hand resting casually near his sidearm. The other humans in the group maintained professional expressions, but Sarah could feel their shared determination. The massive doors to the assembly hall slid open with a musical chime. Inside, the circular chamber rose in terraced levels like an ancient amphitheater. Representatives from over 400 alien species filled the seats, their various forms creating a bizarre but impressive display of galactic diversity. Some had scales that shimmered in the artificial light. Others had multiple arms or eyes that glowed with inner fire. A few floated in specialized atmospheric bubbles, filled with gas or liquid from their homeworlds. At the center of the chamber sat the High Council of Five, the most powerful species in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Emperor, a tall humanoid with silver skin and flowing robes, dominated the central seat. To his right sat Councillor Vex of the Krillian Consortium, an insect-like being whose compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like mirrors. The other three council members represented equally ancient and influential civilizations. Sarah walked to the speaker's platform in the center of the hall. The conversations and alien languages filling the air gradually fell silent as all eyes turned toward the human delegation. She had been to this chamber countless times before, but today felt different. Today, she carried the weight of Earth's future and the power to reshape galactic politics forever. The Zephyrian Emperor spoke first, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustic systems. Ambassador Chen, we welcome Earth's representatives to this emergency session. We understand you have matters of great importance to discuss. Sarah nodded respectfully. Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty. Earth does indeed have urgent business with this assembly. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the hundreds of alien faces staring down at her. For 2 centuries, humanity has been a member of the Galactic Trade Alliance. We have contributed our technology, our resources, and our people to the greater good of galactic civilization. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Earth's contributions were well known. Human engineers had built much of the infrastructure that connected distant worlds. Human doctors had developed treatments for diseases that affected dozens of species. Human inventors had created technologies that made interstellar travel safer and more efficient. However, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. Recent discoveries have revealed systematic violations of our agreements and exploitation of human colonies that cannot be overlooked. The murmurs changed tone, becoming more agitated. Councillor Vex leaned forward, his mandibles clicking together. Ambassador Chen, if you have specific complaints, they should be filed through proper diplomatic channels, not announced in this dramatic fashion. Sarah smiled coldly. Oh, but Councillor Vex, we have filed complaints through proper channels. 17 times in the past 5 years, in fact. She gestured to Dr. Wright, who stepped forward with his briefcase. Every complaint was dismissed, delayed, or buried in bureaucratic procedures while the violations continued. Dr. Wright opened his briefcase and activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air above the chamber, showing mining operations on human colony worlds. The images clearly showed alien corporate ships extracting valuable minerals without permits, leaving behind polluted landscapes and poisoned water supplies. These are footage from our colonies in the Outer Rim, Sarah explained. Krillian Consortium mining ships have been illegally harvesting rare earth elements from 17 human worlds. When colonists complained, they were threatened with economic sanctions. Counselor Vex's compound eyes flashed with what might have been anger or embarrassment. These are isolated incidents, blown out of proportion by human hysteria. Isolated. Sarah's voice rose. Dr. Wright, please show them Exhibit B. New images appeared showing cargo ships with Zephyrian Imperial markings loading human-made technology and manufactured goods. The ships were clearly taking far more than trade agreements allowed. Imperial shipping companies have been taking triple their agreed quotas of human technology, Sarah continued. Computer systems, medical equipment, even basic tools have been removed from human colonies, leaving our people without essential supplies. The Zephyrian Emperor's silver face remained expressionless, but his voice carried a hint of irritation. Trade agreements are complex matters. Minor violations are handled through normal arbitration processes. Minor violations. Sarah's composure cracked slightly, revealing genuine anger. People have died because medical equipment was taken from their hospitals. Children have gone without education because computer systems were removed from their schools. This is not minor. A representative from the Vulcan Republic, a species known for their sense of honor, stood up in the higher seats. If these accusations are true, they represent serious breaches of galactic law. Why has Earth not brought formal charges? Sarah turned to face the Vulcan representative. We have tried for years to resolve these issues peacefully. We believed in the system, in the fairness of galactic law. We were wrong. She walked to the center of the platform, directly under the Great Seal of the Galactic Trade Alliance suspended above the chamber. Today, Earth formally withdraws from all galactic treaties, trade agreements, and cooperative ventures. Effective immediately, we are revoking all licenses for alien operations in human space and terminating all technology sharing agreements. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens jumped to their feet, shouting in dozens of languages. Some representatives activated personal communication devices, frantically contacting their governments. The High Council members looked stunned, clearly not expecting such a dramatic announcement. The Zephyrian Emperor raised his hand, and gradually the noise subsided. Ambassador Chen, surely Earth does not wish to isolate itself from galactic civilization. We can discuss reparations, adjustments to existing agreements. The time for discussion has passed, Sarah replied firmly. Earth has made its decision. Counselor Vex's voice carried a threatening undertone. Earth should consider carefully the consequences of such actions. Humanity depends on galactic trade for many essential supplies. Your colonies are scattered across hundreds of light years. Without Alliance protection and support, they will become vulnerable to pirates, natural disasters, and hostile species. Captain Torres stepped forward for the first time. Is the Krillian Consortium threatening human civilians, Counselor? I am stating facts, Vex replied. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for those without friends. Sarah smiled grimly. You seem to believe that Earth is helpless without the Alliance. That is your first mistake. She nodded to Captain Torres, who activated his own communication device. Suddenly, every viewing screen in the chamber came alive with new images. The aliens saw massive human warships emerging from seemingly empty space around Nexus Prime. The ships were sleek and powerful, unlike any vessels they had seen before. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, making them appear as dark shapes against the stars. What is this? The Zephyrian Emperor demanded. The Terra Defense Fleet, Captain Torres answered calmly. 50 ships built in secret over the past 20 years, using technology we never shared with the Alliance. More images showed human colonies across the galaxy. Instead of the vulnerable settlements the aliens expected to see, the screens revealed well-defended worlds with orbital defense platforms, shield generators, and their own fleets of advanced ships. Dr. Wright spoke for the first time during the meeting, his voice carrying quiet confidence. Earth has been preparing for this day for decades. We've been upgrading our colonies, building our own infrastructure, and developing technologies that far exceed anything currently used in the Alliance. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The aliens had always seen humanity as a useful but ultimately dependent species. The idea that humans had been secretly building their own civilization independent of galactic support was shocking. Sarah addressed the assembly one final time. For 2 centuries, you have treated humanity as junior partners, useful for our innovations, but not worthy of true respect. You have stolen from us, exploited our colonies, and dismissed our concerns. Today, that relationship ends. She paused, letting her words echo in the silent chamber. Earth will no longer share our technology freely. We will no longer maintain the systems that keep your trade networks running. We will no longer provide the innovations that solve your problems. You are about to discover how much you depended on humanity and how little you understood us. The Zephyrian Emperor stood, his silver robes flowing around him. Ambassador Chen, surely we can reach some accommodation. The galaxy has benefited from human membership in the Alliance. The galaxy has benefited, Sarah agreed, but humanity has paid the price. That ends now. She gathered her briefcase and turned toward the exit. Within 72 hours, all human personnel will be withdrawn from Alliance facilities. All human-maintained systems will be shut down. All cooperative agreements will be terminated. As the human delegation walked toward the chamber doors, Counselor Vex called out desperately, "You cannot do this. The economic disruption alone will affect billions of beings across hundreds of worlds." Sarah paused at the threshold and looked back at the assembly. You should have thought of that before you decided to exploit and steal from humanity. Actions have consequences, Counselor. You are about to learn that lesson. The doors closed behind the human delegation, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Then the real chaos began as alien representatives realized the full implications of Earth's withdrawal. Emergency communications flooded the networks as governments tried to assess the damage and find solutions. But it was already too late. Earth had fired the first shot in a war that would reshape the galaxy, and humanity held all the advantages. The age of human subservience was over, and the aliens were about to discover just how dangerous it was to awaken a sleeping giant. The Cascade Effect. 3 weeks after Earth's dramatic exit from the Galactic Trade Alliance, Captain Michael Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching rescue shuttles ferry human civilians from the disabled space station below. The massive orbital facility had been one of the galaxy's busiest trade hubs, but now it drifted powerless and dark against the backdrop of Kepler 442's orange sun. How many more shuttles do we need? Torres asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Sarah Kim checked her readouts. 47 more loads, sir. The station's life support is running on emergency power only. The human technicians who maintained the primary systems were evacuated yesterday. Torres nodded grimly. This scene was being repeated across the galaxy as human-maintained infrastructure began failing. The aliens had been so focused on the political implications of Earth's withdrawal that they had failed to grasp the practical consequences until it was too late. On his private communication channel, Torres received an encrypted message from Admiral Kai Nakamura at Earth Defense Command. The text was brief, but telling. Phase 2 initiated. Full cascade beginning ahead of schedule. Prepare for desperate counteractions. Torres understood immediately. The aliens were about to discover just how deeply human technology and expertise had become woven into the fabric of galactic civilization. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian Imperial Palace on the capital world of Zephyr Prime, emergency meetings had been running continuously for days. Emperor Velax paced behind his crystal throne while his advisors presented increasingly dire reports. "Your Majesty," said his chief engineer, a nervous Zephyrian with twitching antennae, "the hyperspace communication network is experiencing cascading failures. Human-built quantum relay stations are shutting down across 17 sectors." "What does this mean in practical terms?" the Emperor demanded. "Ships are losing navigation data mid-journey. Some have been forced to drop out of hyperspace in empty regions of space. We're receiving distress calls, but many are too far away for conventional rescue. Another advisor stepped forward, his silver skin pale with stress. The economic implications are staggering, Your Majesty. The Galactic Stock Exchange has suspended trading indefinitely. Without human-maintained quantum computers handling transactions, the financial networks have become unreliable. Emperor Valax sank into his throne. How did we become so dependent on one species without realizing it? The question hung in the air, unanswered and uncomfortable. Light years away, Dr. James Wright sat in his laboratory on Luna Station, monitoring the shutdown sequences of systems across the galaxy. His screen showed a cascading wave of failures spreading outward from Earth like ripples in a pond. Each failure triggered others as interconnected systems lost their support structures. The hydroponics facilities on agricultural worlds are going offline, reported his assistant, Dr. Elena Martinez. Without human-designed nutrient distribution systems, crop yields are dropping by 60%. Wright nodded sadly. I warned them this would happen. We didn't just build their technology, we became their technology. Every innovation they've used for the past century has human fingerprints on it. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, millions of alien workers watched in confusion as the massive automated factories ground to a halt. The AI systems that coordinated production across the planet's surface were human-designed and human-maintained. Without regular updates and maintenance, they began making errors, then conflicts, then finally shut down entirely to prevent catastrophic malfunctions. Crix, a Vulcan foreman with 4 arms and skin like burnished copper, stared at the silent assembly lines. How long can we maintain production manually? He asked his human supervisor, Maria Santos. Maria was packing her personal belongings into a transport case. Like all human personnel, she had been ordered to evacuate to Earth space. Maybe a week at current capacity. After that, you'll need to completely retrain your workforce for manual operations. It could take months to restore even basic production levels. But the defense contracts, the medical supplies, the civilian goods, Crix protested. Dozens of worlds depend on what we manufacture here. That should have been considered before the Alliance decided to exploit human colonies, Maria replied, not unkindly but firmly. We offered partnership. You chose domination. Now you get to discover the difference. The real panic began when the medical systems started failing. On hospital worlds across the galaxy, life support systems for critical patients began showing error messages. Human-designed medical scanners produced inconsistent readings. Surgical robots calibrated by human technicians began making dangerous mistakes. Dr. Zen, the Krillian Consortium's chief medical officer, found herself in an impossible situation. Her compound eyes swept across the main hospital on Consortium Prime as emergency alarms sounded throughout the building. Half the critical care patients were hooked to human-built life support systems that were beginning to malfunction. Can we repair the systems ourselves? She asked her engineering team. The head engineer, a mantis-like being, clicked his mandibles nervously. The human-built equipment uses quantum neural networks that we don't fully understand. We can replace some components, but the core programming is encrypted and adaptive. It's like trying to repair a brain while it's thinking. Dr. Zan realized with growing horror that they had become entirely dependent on human expertise for the most basic medical care. How many other hospitals are experiencing similar problems? All of them, came the devastating reply. Every major medical facility in Consortium space uses human technology. Back on Earth, President Elena Rodriguez sat in the Situation Room deep beneath Geneva, watching holographic displays showing the spreading chaos across the galaxy. Her cabinet members provided updates on various sectors. The alien governments are beginning to understand the scope of the problem, reported Secretary of State Chen Wei. We're receiving dozens of diplomatic requests for emergency technical assistance. And our response? Rodriguez asked. As instructed, Madam President, all requests are being politely declined with references to the terminated cooperation agreements. Admiral Nakamura gestured to his tactical display. Several alien fleets have taken aggressive positions near our border systems. The Krillian Consortium has assembled a battle group near the Proxima system. They appear to be considering military action. Rodriguez leaned back in her chair. Captain Torres anticipated this. How are our defenses? More than adequate, Nakamura replied with confidence. Our defensive systems were designed specifically to counter Alliance military technology. We've been studying their capabilities for decades while they knew almost nothing about ours. The President nodded. Continue with the evacuation of human personnel from Alliance space. Once our people are safe, we implement Phase 3. 3 days later, Captain Torres found himself face to face with a Krillian battle fleet near the edge of human space. His ship, the UES Prometheus, was significantly smaller than the alien dreadnoughts surrounding it, but Torres felt no concern. The human vessels were built with technology the aliens had never seen. The Krillian fleet commander, Admiral Zek, appeared on Torres' main screen. His insectoid features were rigid with authority and barely controlled aggression. Captain Torres, by order of the Krillian Consortium, you will provide technical assistance to restore critical systems in our space. Your refusal to help is causing civilian casualties. Torres met the alien's compound eyes steadily. Admiral Zek, those systems were built and maintained under cooperative agreements that your government chose to violate. Earth has no obligation to provide assistance to nations that have exploited our colonies and stolen our resources. This is not a request. Admiral Zek's mandibles clicked dangerously. If humanity does not resume technical support immediately, we will consider it an act of aggression. Torres smiled coldly. Admiral, you are currently surrounded by 60 human warships that your sensors cannot detect. Our stealth technology is approximately 50 years ahead of your detection systems. If you wish to discover what human military technology looks like when we're not cooperating with you, please continue with your threats. Admiral Zek's compound eyes widened as his sensor operators confirmed what Torres had said. Human ships were indeed surrounding the Krillian fleet, appearing on sensors like ghosts materializing from empty space. You cannot threaten the entire galaxy, Admiral Zek protested, though his voice had lost much of its authority. We're not threatening anyone, Torres replied calmly. We're simply no longer helping you. The galaxy managed to exist for millions of years before humanity joined your alliance. I'm sure you'll figure out how to manage without us again. The communication ended, and the Krillian fleet withdrew. Similar confrontations occurred throughout human space as various alien governments tried to use military pressure to force Earth's cooperation. Each attempt ended the same way, with alien forces retreating after discovering the extent of human military capabilities. 2 months after Earth's withdrawal, the cascading failures had reached critical mass. Entire sectors of the galaxy were experiencing rolling blackouts as power grids failed. Transportation networks were breaking down as navigation systems became unreliable. Agricultural worlds were facing famine as automated farming systems stopped working. In the Galactic Trade Alliance headquarters, now operating on emergency power and staffed by half its normal complement, Emperor Valax met with the other High Council members to discuss their increasingly desperate situation. The economic damage is beyond calculation, reported Councillor Vex, his usual arrogance replaced by barely concealed panic. Interstellar trade has dropped by 80%. Some worlds are facing complete societal collapse. The Vulcan representative, Battlemaster Gron, spoke with characteristic bluntness. We underestimated humanity completely. They were never the junior partners we believed them to be. They were the foundation upon which our entire civilization was built. Emperor Valax stared at the flickering holographic displays showing the extent of the crisis. How long before we can restore basic functionality without human assistance? The question was met with uncomfortable silence before the chief engineer finally spoke. Our analysts estimate between 5 and 10 years to rebuild the basic infrastructure, assuming we can reverse engineer human technology. Full restoration of pre-crisis capabilities could take decades. And how many worlds will suffer irreversible damage in that time? Velax asked quietly. Hundreds, came the whispered reply. On Earth, President Rodriguez received the expected communication from the Alliance 3 days later. Emperor Velax appeared on her secure channel, his silver features showing exhaustion and defeat. President Rodriguez, he began formally. The Galactic Trade Alliance requests immediate negotiation regarding the restoration of cooperative relationships between our civilizations. Rodriguez had been preparing for this moment. Emperor Velax, Earth is willing to discuss new agreements. However, the terms will be very different from our previous arrangements. What are your conditions? Full recognition of human sovereignty over all human-settled worlds, reparations for the illegal exploitation of human colonies, equal representation in all Alliance governing bodies, and a formal guarantee that humanity will never again be treated as a subordinate member of galactic civilization. Velax was quiet for a long moment. These terms represent a fundamental shift in the balance of galactic power. Yes, Rodriguez agreed simply. The age of taking humanity for granted is over. You can choose to work with us as equals, or you can continue to struggle without us. But you will never again be able to exploit us. 3 months later, the new Galactic Cooperation Treaty was signed in a ceremony aboard a human space station. The agreement established humanity as the dominant technological power in the galaxy, with other species finally recognizing what had been true all along. Human innovation and ingenuity had become the invisible foundation supporting all of galactic civilization. As Ambassador Sarah Chen signed the treaty, she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. Earth had taken an enormous risk in withdrawing from the Alliance, but sometimes the only way to gain respect was to demonstrate the consequences of its absence. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about taking humanity for granted. They would not make that mistake again.